Okay, we got a story problem here. It's talking about a fire and two ranger stations here. So looking from these stations, they give me that the distance between them here is 7 miles between A and B. I'm going to go ahead and label these the same way we would any triangle. So if this is big C, little c is across from it. Big A makes this little a, big B makes this little b. The next thing they tell me is the bearing is 9.5. So if this is 9.5 here, and you know the fact that between north and looking in an east direction is 90 degrees, okay, if you do 90 minus 9.5 here, then you're going to know that this angle is 80.5 right here, 80.5. So I'm just kind of setting up this triangle. And that's going to match up with this. And then I'm also going to, I might as well leave that up there, 9.5. And then I'm going to look at B now. So here's a little b if we need it. If this is 306 all the way around, okay, I know that 360 minus 306 here, okay, is going to go ahead and give me 54. So that means this angle here is 54. And then same concept as we had before. If I'm looking north and then I look towards the west, obviously it should be a 90-degree angle there. And if I do 90 minus 54, then I'm going to get 36 for this angle. Okay, now the main reason I need all those angles is I know all triangles add up to 180. So 180 minus 80.5 minus 36 here is equivalent to 63.5. All right, now what am I looking for? I'm looking for the distance between the fire lookout and station B. So I am looking for little a over here between the fire lookout and station, or the lookout B and the station. So I'm looking for little a. All right, so law of sines. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up here. I never use all three fractions or ratios. I only use two. The one that's kind of insignificant in this scenario are the b's. I don't really care about the b's here. I need c's because anytime I know an angle and an opposite, so I know an angle and an opposite, so I could fill in these spots right here. And I'm obviously looking for a, so here's little a and I know angle a. And I can fill in these spots. So I don't really care about the b's in this scenario. So now I slowly but surely make sure I plug the appropriate thing in the appropriate spot. And I get 7 on the bottom here, and I get 63.5 degrees over here. And then over here for angle A, I get 80.5. And then I'm going to leave little a as my variable. All right, proportions. Anytime I have a fraction on the left side and a fraction on the right side, I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply. So my math here would be a times the sine of 63.5 degrees. Remember, sine of 63.5 is a pre-programmed number in my calculator that works for every fraction, or excuse me, right triangle that has that angle measure and deals with opposite and hypotenuse. And I get 7 times the sine of 80.5 degrees. Now, my goal is to get this alone. And again, if this is a number, the opposite of multiplying that number is dividing by that number. So I'm going to divide by the sine of 63.5 degrees, divide by the sine of 63.5 degrees. This goes away. Now it's a calculator problem. All right, on the calculator, make sure that you are in the correct mode. So when you go to mode, you have to have degrees highlighted down here. So make sure that's highlighted. And then I'm going to type it in exactly the way it looks. 7 times the sine of 80.5. I'm going to close my parentheses, divided by the sine of 63.5. And I get this. Okay, my instructions say to round to the nearest hundredth. So that's 2 decimal places. So right here, I'm going to say little a is approximately equal to 7.71. And I'm actually going to fill that in up here, 7.71. Now, I don't like using rounded answers in my calculations, but I will if I have to. For this next problem, it's asking me what is the distance from this fire to the road. Well, there is what I'm looking for. And you'll notice I made a little right triangle. So I'm going to go ahead and trace it. I'm going to pull it off. And we will determine what we're looking for. So here's my 90-degree angle. I'm looking for this purple length here. I'll go ahead and call it X. I know that this is 7.71 for my calculations, even though it's rounded. And the only angle I have in here is that this is 36 degrees. Now, since it is a right triangle, I can use SOHCAHTOA. And from my reference angle here, I would call this X here opposite. And the side that is across from the 90-degree angle is always hype. And the only trig ratio that deals with opposite and hypotenuse is sine. So I go sine of 36 degrees equals X over 7.71. Now this is a one-step algebra equation. If I want to get X alone here, the opposite of dividing by 7.71 is multiplying by 7.71. And I got to do that on both sides of the equation to balance out. Okay, again, calculator problem. So I'm going to go make sure it's turned on, make sure it's in degree mode, 7.71 sine of 36. And there's my other answer. I'm going to go ahead and round this to 2 decimal places as well. And I get X here is approximately equal to 4.53. Leave me alone.